I'd like to open the Audit Committee meeting for the month of February. First thing I need is a motion to approve the minutes that were submitted of the January 26th meeting. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, our Audit Committee work plan, I don't think it's changed.
Nope, same.
So it's the plan that we have for 2009. Any changes will be brought before you and we will vote on them. Okay, for the first time, the MTA Business Service Center. Lenny, you're up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to give you an update. I plan on doing it as often as possible. And since this is our first time, I'd like to start off and tell you what we've done in the last 8 months and then move into where we are now and what the future plans are. Is that okay with you, Jim?
Sure.
Well, in the last 8 months or so, my staff and I have worked with all the agencies, and again, we're making it a team effort. I'd like to thank right up front Mike and his staff have been very good to us and worked in many projects with us and is also working with other projects. I'll go through them as we go through it. So far to date, we've done a bunch of things for headquarters. We put a new AR system in place. It's going live in about a week. We worked very closely with Wal Hibry and his staff putting that in. We did that for no additional money. We saved about $570,000, a true shared service effort. We're working with headquarters, helping him with their upgrade. They're going through a payroll upgrade, and some of my staff is working with him. We put in e-recruit system for Long Island Railroad, and since that time, they've processed 46,000 applications. We did that with IT from headquarters, another joint effort. We support the bus company in helping with their payroll needs, and I just met with Joe Smith and Tom Del Sorbo in helping them out with some inventory reporting they need. I'm meeting with them next week. We've also support Metro-North's PeopleSoft systems. As you know, we've taken the staff over, but we do support their systems. We're implementing Kronos for PeopleSoft for Metro-North. So we've done a lot of things throughout the 8 months for the agencies as a shared service environment. I'm happy to say with that and with all those successes and what we're doing, we don't see the doors closing anymore. We have people coming to us now asking us for assistance, asking us for information, asking us for different things. So it's been a much better environment. Shared services is now known throughout the agencies. I've met with all the agencies. I met with thousands of people explaining where we are, what we're doing, very open forum. I meet once a month with the agency presidents. I meet with the BSC Council, which is the vice presidents. I meet with the procurement directors. I meet with the IT directors, and I meet with the CFOs monthly. So every month they get an update where we are. We talk about business. We share information. And it's a very good platform because everyone knows what's going on. There's no hidden agendas, no hidden silos, or everyone is right on board and knows what's happening. So that's where we were. In addition, we've created a new chart of accounts. My thanks to Steve DeMichael, Jim Cerna, and Joe Delaney, who have led the charge. It's an all-agency charge. Again, all the agencies, people have been involved. We're just about ready. We're going to be cleaning that up. They're in a cleanup stage. We're putting it into a PeopleSoft environment in the next couple of months to start testing it. It's been developed to get everything that all the agencies need. It's one standardized chart, which will also help us close and be more efficient, we're hoping, with our consolidation. Again, another joint effort. This is nothing's been done just by the BSC. It's amazing how all the agencies are coming together and really working well together, I have to tell you. So that's real quick where we are, where we're done so far. I'd like to talk a little bit about the implementation stage, which we're going to. There's 2 staff summary sheets in the board books. One is for to hire Essentia, who is partnering with Cherry Road, who we worked with before when I put the bus company implementation in, and Metro-North. And they're also partnering with Oracle, who owns PeopleSoft. It's a very good partnership. They put in a RFP for $127 million with great negotiations by Cliff Shockley and his people. With a lot of upfront work we did, which took scope out of our contract. We've gotten it down to $103 million, and we're adding back $13 million for optional items such as a new pension system to accommodate changes in putting in a MAPSTOA and SATOA, which is a very big pension plan, and also for the Long Island Railroad close plan. We have some other things in there which are optional, because if my staff will do it, I won't use the money. Additional reporting if needed. We're talking with them about putting in as much historical information as possible, because that's where we're going to make, that's what's going to help us. Having consolidated historical information will make much quicker and better business decisions. So I put some extra money in there. But these are optional. This only we spend if we can't do it ourselves. So it's a very good contract. The second RFP is for Q&A. That came in at $10 million, and we negotiated that down to $4.4 million, and that's a lot to do with the fact that Mike is loaning me 2 auditors that are coming over to work full-time with me at the BSC, and 2 other auditors. We have 4 auditors. Mike and I work very well together. We're good partners in this. So we've gotten that down to $4 million. So together it's about $120 million, but if you remember, the original estimates were $145 million. So with good planning, good teamwork, a lot of work up front, we're able to save, without even starting, $25 million. I think it's just everyone working together. It's just coming down to that. We have a good team already. We've hired 49 people already throughout the agencies. It's a very diversified organization. There's some from every agency. We still have more to go, and we're getting a lot of interest. We get a lot of resumes from the agencies. It's very exciting. People are very interested in the BSC. They feel there's good job opportunities, but these are good people. We're getting good candidates, and some people coming back for a second interview and getting another job because they didn't quite make the first one. So we're getting a good team together. We got the auditors with us. Even the IG has been working with us and supporting us. Very interested in what we're doing, and also is asking if he can help out. So we have a full team effort. I just want to make sure you all know that right up front. It's been that way for 8 months now. Well, the first 2 months maybe not, but the last 6 months it's been that way. That's where we are with the procurements. The Finance Committee just approved those. I hope that they'll be approved as we go through the rest of it. As far as the additional items that I spoke to the board about, procurement, part of the contract with Accenture will do a study of how we would pull procurements into the BSC using non-operational and then looking at operational down the road. And we're putting together real quickly the review panel I spoke to most of you about. That's going well. I meet with the procurement directors probably more than once a month now, a couple of times. I'm very much involved with procurements, as Mike can tell you. Mike and I are very much involved. We teamed up this week on one on the heavy building supplies, and it's now going to go. New York City Transit is asking to extend their contract, but we're going to go to an all-agency one in about 6 months, 6 to 8 months. So that's working out now, and I get a lot of support from the procurement directors. I drafted out how I want to do the procurement review panel. They gave me their input. We redrafted it. Now we have a product that comes from all of us. It's not just a BSC product. It's ownership, and that will be implemented hopefully by next month. So that's working out well. We're looking at some things. We're looking at is heavy building supplies. You saw Cliff put in the cell phones this month. He did a great job in that. That's an all-agency approach. Oracle Consulting, I'm working with Long Island Railroad to do an all-agency procurement on that. And we picked a couple of new ones that Mike and his group are going to be doing some research for us. We're looking at, next up, we're looking at safety equipment. So we're trying to get ahead of ourselves, so we have like an assembly line of procurements that should be done on a joint procurement level, not just on individual agency. So that's starting to kick in now, and we're going to start seeing some benefits from it real quickly. And everyone's involved, and there's no fighting. Everyone is working very well together. It's been very good, I have to say. Real estate, we are about to move. Some of us have already moved to our new location at 3 World Finance. Once we're in and everything is put together, I'd like to invite you all up there and to see it. I'll let you know, Jim, and if anyone wants to come. We got an unbelievable rate there. Unfortunately for the times, we got a rate that's way under budget, fully built out the way we need it. There are no build-out costs, so we're going to save about another $1 million there because I had budgeted $1 million for build-out. Actually, the landlord has actually paid for the minor build-out we needed. So we're moving in between now and the next 2 weeks.
But is this the old Amex Tower?
Yes, it is. It's,
Wow.
we got rent, I think it came down to, don't hold me to it, $34.50 a square foot. That's with free rent
That's
if you
the
take.
old Lehman Brothers building in the World
Yeah,
Trade
it's a
Center.
beautiful building, and it's actually built the way you need it for implementation. It's all open with offices around it, large conference rooms, our war rooms. So it really came together, and MTA Real Estate did a great job with us. They took us everywhere. We looked every borough. Things were so reasonable that we stayed in Manhattan, close to my customers, which is New York City Transit, all the agencies, and it's very easy to get here and to get where we have to go from that location. So that's on the budget, and we're gonna. It's just ready to move in, so we're moving in. Additional functions we're looking at, as you know from that committee meeting we had. My staff is starting to look at accounts receivable. We're working with the CFOs. We just put a new system in for headquarters, which they're delighted with, and we want to see if the other agencies can use that function and how it works with PeopleSoft to roll up for capital reporting. We've already met with the capital company who's fallen in love with the whole idea of breaking down and being able to post things in the PeopleSoft by project. They didn't have that up until now. They will have it with headquarters. So we're looking at that. We're looking at capital accounting and payments. We scoped that out. We're finalizing that. And I will be coming back to the board with what we find out and talking to my boss, Lee, and let him know what our recommendations are. We're looking at revenue accounting, but there's a study going on now with McKinsey, which I'm involved with, on all revenue and all of revenue systems and how we plan on collecting and using and getting our revenues in the future. So I'm waiting for that to settle. Off of that study, I'll come back with recommendations of where that should be. And I've already talked to them. They have some good ideas about where it belongs and how it should work. Internal controls, I've already met. My staff is talking to Lamont about this, and we're going to look and see how if that belongs in the BSC, the actual the product itself. And, of course, procurement we just talked about. Some additional studies we're going to start as soon as we get the consultants on board. Our desktop support voice, because we have one contract now, would fit in perfectly. Revenue accounting and systems, which go with the revenue accounting. And we're gonna look very seriously into the customer call center. We're going to do some studies on that and get back to you and let you know where we are with that. We already met with, talked to New York City. I've talked to the other board member, I can't think of his name, Jeff Kay. And him and I have talked a little bit about it. And I've been to 311, seen their facility. So a lot of things are happening, and they're happening very quickly. But they're right on target to everything the way we planned it out. Everything's just falling into place. As far as targets, I presented this. I didn't want to kill too much paper, so I hope you didn't mind. But if you like, I can give you something on the screen the next time. This is the chart I gave to everyone. The timing talks about starting March 1st, working through January 1st, 2011, to open up the BSC doors with the functionality for all the financial functionalities and the financial systems, not too far away. And also payroll and HR. We did put in our plans for next year for New York City Transit because of its size and because of the increasing responsibilities for civil service and DCAS coming in, but we're learning more about it. If we can, we will accelerate that. But right now our budget says, and our plans say 1 year later. We don't like to put a payroll system in half a year. That's why it's 1 year. But if we can put it in 2011, everyone will be in it 2011. At that point in time, we go to steady state at 212, and we start realizing savings. We're figuring approximately $30 million the first year. So if all goes well, we will have savings by 212, plus reduction in what we're cost to do this. We're taking our return on investment from 4 to 5 years down to 3 to 4 years now. And anything we put in there earlier and we can get savings sooner, our return on investment can only go down or go quicker. And that's my goal, is to get that return on investment as low as possible. So I just wanted to give you a briefing. Everything is on target. We are, there are no critical things that are blocking our way. We are working on labor relations. I can't talk about that too much because it's kind of sensitive, but I will come back to you, and maybe in a couple of months we could talk in a closed session where we are. We did make progress. We've broken the ice. So that's working out as well. But there's a lot to do there. And that's my update. Any questions?
Any questions? I just have one question. You talked about chart of accounts. That was a long time coming.
Yes.
And even in the last 3 months, my question is, as part of the chart of accounts, there is a definition of what belongs into each account?
Well, it's a complete chart, Jim. It's the ledger account. It's a cost center, which gives you the management that gives you the department. There's a cost center that gives you more information about that, where it is, what's happening. And there's a function code that gives you even more information. On top of that, we have something called a work order or project ID, which we'll use to identify project costs. That has been an eight-month experience throughout all the agencies. And I got to tell you, it went much smoother than I anticipated. I really thought that was going to be a problem, but everybody chipped in, everybody did what they had to do, and we're wrapping things up. We still have some months to go, but what we wanted to do is build it so that we would be able to do a consolidation quicker or easier, so we don't have a separate module to do consolidation. It just will easily. We're also looking at if we have one AR system, can we do our intercompany eliminations automatically? So we're looking at that as well. The key is to get as much done automatically. I've met with Mike. I've met with Joe, who now works for me. Joe Delaney now works for the BSC's, the Senior Director of Finance. So he brings the piece on the overall look of how we need to build this. It does. It gives you complete information about the ledger. You can go in and sort and do anything you need based on this chart of accounts.
I'm also glad to hear that this procurement review is moving forward. And I think that maybe the next time around, maybe you should bring your procurement counsel with you.
Okay.
Because I think it would be important for us to know them, number one, and number two, that they know that we're really serious, that this is really a focus that we're looking at.
I'll invite them. They know it's serious,
Good.
and they've been really on board, and they're really starting to go with it. And these are good people. These are very experienced, very wise people about do procurements, and they understand what we're doing, and they've been really lending a big hand to this now.
Good.
It's good to see. We're also building something called a chart of commodities, which will be the backbone for the ordering and buying of what we need to buy, to standardize what we buy. So one agency won't call a pen a black pen, another one won't call it a big black pen. I'm using that facetiously, but if you can standardize the way you describe your commodities, it makes it easier to do ordering. It also makes it easier to make good business decisions and to get information that's not fingertip now. It's difficult to get historical information because agencies call it different. So with our chart of commodities, and we have a working team on that, set them up. We have a first meeting, and we have people from all the procurement areas that are talking about how we're going to build that in PeopleSoft. My IT group actually took New York City Transit's chart of commodities electronically, put it into PeopleSoft, and that's the basis already. But we're making some decisions as a group. Do we buy a one that's already out there and lease it, or do we build our own? So those are some decisions we're making as we go. Again, this is not just a BSC show. This is a total team effort, and everyone is really starting to come together nicely. I have to say that. I want to thank everyone because they've just been great, and everyone is following the path and doing what they have to do.
Any questions for Lenny?
This isn't really a question, it's a comment, Lenny. The older board members, and Jim certainly is in that category as the oldest, remember that in terms of service, it's so good to hear this working out so well because, as you know, the board went through a phenomenal amount of angst in getting us to this point, and it took a lot of work, much of it done by Jim Sidor, our chair, and I want to thank him, and I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to make it really work, because it's working far better than we had ever perceived.
So far, I can't report anything bad, and I will tell you the bad things too. If we can't fix them before we get to you, you're just not going to hear the pretty stuff. But so far, it's coming together. It's just amazing how it's just shaping and forming. But when bad things hit, I will have to tell you that as well. But I will give you what's wrong and tell you my plans to correct it. I'm just not going to come here with a problem. I'll tell you how I feel we should correct it. But right now, we're doing great.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda are the financial interest reports.
Good afternoon. As you can see in your booklets, I've provided you with a report for the 2008 filings covering the year 2007. Last year, we had 6,114 people who had to file the financial disclosure statement. Of that number, 7 individuals were delinquent in terms of their filing. All 7 at this point have, in fact, filed. However, 2 filed so late that they owe a fine, and they are still in the process of paying that fine. If that fine is not paid in a timely manner, they will be receiving notices from the Commission on Public Integrity regarding that. But we have reached out to them and urged them to make those payments as soon as possible.
I know we work hard in trying to get these done on time.
Well, 7
not
people
much-
out of 6,000 is,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
We
do
have one
very
of the
well,
highest
but
filing
it's-
rates in of any agency or authority.
But I think a lot has to do with keeping on top of it, and I'm sure that's really a job unto itself.
Well, they received a rather unpleasant email from me regarding this, so I'm sure they will.
Okay, any questions? Okay.
Actually, if I could,
Sure.
just one other thing I should mention. There is a new development as it relates to this financial disclosure that you should be aware of. The Commission has decided as a cost-saving measure to no longer mail the notices to employees. In the past, you would get 2 letters from them, one with your password, one with your user ID. They will no longer be doing that. They will be sending people emails with their user ID and password instead of mailing them to everyone who has an email address on file with them. Now, they ran a pilot on this, and of course the filing rate dropped on that pilot. I guess people don't always read their emails. So this year we're going to make sure that we notify all the employees who have to file that they should be on the lookout for these emails and not just to delete them.
Have to make sure it doesn't drop into the junk mail section.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. We don't really know right now. Again, this is new for them, so they haven't actually given us a date at this point. The actual filings are due on May 15th. Yeah.
They've got to give us at least a month and a half to get these things done. We normally get them in March.
Right. But I'm not making any representations, again, because this is new. And, again, some people did not have email addresses on file, so they will still supposedly get hard copies in the mail.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, MTA Ethics Program.
If you will turn to the second page of the presentation that's in your book. Last year, we handled over 244 inquiries. They included things about prohibited source events, gifts, financial disclosure, post-employment. Keep in mind, these are just the ones that required some form of vetting or we needed to make some form of record for. So that's why it says over 244. And again, that's all agency as well. If you turn to page 3, on page 3, we just gave you a little breakdown so you could see where these things came in. We received a lot of things via email. Last year, we instituted what I call a non-human email address. It's compliance@mtahq.org. So people have been using that as well. So that has been very successful. So we'll be getting a lot more things in via email than we have before. We're still getting things in through the ethics helpline as well. And we got a lot of things in by fax last year, too. People were faxing things in as well. So we are still, I think, very successful in the communication area. Page 4. We just gave you a little bit of a breakdown of where the different inquiries regard what they related to. Again, most of it related to ethics. Another large percentage of the questions actually related to people looking for interpretations of MTA policies and procedures, what they meant, what they could do. So this just kind of gives you just a breakdown of the different areas that we dealt with last year. In 2008, we continued to communicate with employees via the new employee package, the They received a code of ethics and a copy of the public officers law. We did gift memos to both the MTA employees and our vendors. And we have sent out reminders about special events that are coming up, conferences that employees may have gotten complimentary invitations to that they couldn't attend. So we continue to communicate very, I think, effectively with our employees regarding what their ethical obligations are. On page 6, you'll see the total number of employees that we provided ethics training for. Ethics training at the MTA is done through my office. It is the same ethics training for all employees, no matter which agency you are. We only have one ethics training program. Everyone gets the same message, the same information. We did 983. Now, those of you who are on the committee will see that that number has come down from previous years because we are on a 4-year cycle. And this is actually, last year was the end of that 4-year cycle. We are now going to be going back and picking up those people who had been initially trained back in 2005 for retraining at this point. In total, we've trained over 7,000 people in this time frame. And, yes. Continuing legal education. We pay special attention to the lawyers at the MTA to make sure they have ethics training. Page 7 just gives a little bit of breakdown by agency, and obviously transit made up a lot of our training last year. In page 8 just kind of lays out the different areas. Again, gifts being a very important one as well. And employees were very concerned about that. Negotiations for future employment continue to be a big issue for us as well. And we probably will be focusing in on some of the same issues going forward. On page 9, we just gave you a printout of some of the posters. We sent out some signage last year, to promote the use of the ethics helpline, and we put that out throughout the MTA to remind people that they can call in, they don't have to give their name, and they could ask questions of us to help them work through whatever ethical issues they may have. Page 10. Code of Ethics, again, it is posted both on the intranet and the internet. It's being translated into Braille, and it's given to all employees. We are scheduled to hopefully put out a revised code this year, and we are working on that as we speak. But again, the most important thing of all on this slide is the tone from the top. I mean, that we can put out the code, we can tell people what to do, but it is truly that tone from the board and senior management that gives us legitimacy when we are out there speaking to our employees.
You know, political fundraising season is coming on us soon, and I seem to be a target for a lot of invitations to political events. And what I've heretofore done is just email Jim Henley saying, I've been invited to this. Don't think I should go. Am I correct? Am I supposed to be talking to you instead of him?
Well, I'm not going to say you shouldn't speak to Jim. Obviously, you should speak to Jim. Oftentimes what happens is you'll send it to Jim. Jim will send it to me. I will tell Jim, and then Jim will tell you.
That was my question.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine because Mr. Henley is my supervisor, and you can do that.
Okay.
It's really up to you. I mean, some people come to me directly, some don't. I mean, but
I just have his email address memorized. I'll memorize yours.
That's fine. We laid out the schedule on page 11 for 2009. Again, we always plan the training a year in advance so that we can get people scheduled. We have 29 sessions, scheduled for next year, including the executive training session that we require all senior managers to go to each year. Again, part of establishing the tone from the top is that, when you're telling an employee that you have to come to training every 4 years, the first question that, well, what about my supervisor? So agency presidents and their direct reports, our executive director and his direct reports, we are required to have training every year. They come in yearly for training. So once a year, we bring them all into this room and provide them with continuing ethics training every year.
What about the board?
Maybe you should do that with us.
Well, you did have the opportunity for training last year, which I think many of you participated in, but absolutely, we can do that as well. we'd be happy to.
Easy to forget this.
And lastly, we coordinate our activities with the Commission on Public Integrity, the MTA Inspector General's Office, Audit Services, and the agency's ethics officers. So without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So I'll take the opportunity to thank them very much for all the support they've given us through the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks very much. Okay, next on the agenda is agency report on open audit recommendations. You're back on.
Okay. We were asked to take a look at outstanding audit recommendations, and what we did is we took a look at those recommendations that were still in progress 6 months past their implementation date. We worked with MTA Audit Services and the agency's internal control officers to take a look at this. Basically what we did was, again, looking at that 6-month window, right, which seemed reasonable, I think, at the time, and I still believe it's reasonable. We took the date from 6/30/08 going back, implementation date, 6/30/08 going back, and looked at, what recommendations had been issued and which ones were in progress. We came up with a number of 2,449 recommendations which had been issued during the time frame that we looked at. Of that number, there were only 10 that were still in progress at this point in time. The agency's internal control officers sat with their departments and their agencies and went through the recommendations, and I think we are fairly confident in saying that none of the recommendations that are still in progress, the 10 that are still in progress, are of any type of high risk whatsoever, and they are all being worked on.
And we're monitoring him as well. We're coordinating very closely with Amon to make sure he's going to have an excellent job at raising the issue with the agencies and following up. So I would say we have a compliance rate around 95%.
That's actually higher than that.
Higher than that.
Yeah, you're underestimating.
They take them very seriously. We talk to agency presidents all the time. A lot of our recommendations are implemented during the audit even. There are those stragglers that, for whatever reasons, fall behind, but 10 out of 2,000 is
I wouldn't call them stragglers if I could. I mean, I think, from what we saw was that when these recommendations come out, people give their best estimate about what it is and the time frame by which they can get this accomplished. But as you actually go out and start implementing them, things happen, things come up, things change, and they continue to work through those and, communicate what those issues are and how they're going to resolve them. So I think that's, what you probably see, if I could.
I guess the question is that we receive so many recommendations from so many different sources.
Yes.
Are you going to make sure that you cover them all so that we know that no matter who made the recommendation, there's going to be some follow-up to make sure that they...
What we've committed to do, and keep in mind, working with audit services, because no one can do this alone, and working obviously with the Inspector General as well, put a process in place by which these are going to be monitored. I believe it's appropriate for the internal control officers within each of the agencies and myself to monitor the compliance with these recommendations. And yes, working as a team, and it's really going to have to be a team effort, we will do that going forward. Right. And when things, if things should go beyond that 6-month window that we've established, we will definitely advise you of such.
Okay. Any questions? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the 2007 pension audits. Huh?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
No.
How would you like to proceed? It's up to you. I can go through my required communications to the audit committee members, and then if you have questions on our audits as it relates to the 4 plans that we audited, I'd be happy to answer any questions. But again, I would defer to you.
Yeah, I generally read through the audit because I received them all.
Okay.
And I read through them just to check if there was anything unusual. I guess the only question that I would have is that this new GASB effective for '08, how's that going to affect your '08 audits?
What will that will in essence affect what I like to refer to as geography. In the defined benefit financial statements that you received, and there was 3 of them, there was one for Long Island Railroad, the additional plan, Metro North has their cash balance plan, and the MTA has the defined benefit plan. In those financial statements, in the back, you will find what's called required supplementary information. That information in the 2008 financial statements will be moved into the footnote disclosure. You will take the 08 for the December 31st, 2008 information and put that same information, the schedule of funding progress and contributions, into the footnotes. The multi-year information will remain in RSI, but because the GASB felt that that information was extremely relevant to the readers of the financial statements, the GASB believed that it should be presented in the notes to give more impact to that particular information. So nothing's going to change within the financial statements. It's just moving some of that information into the footnote disclosure. And that'll be done with management as well as with the various actuaries who are Milliman, and we will have disclosures throughout the year. But otherwise, it's not a monumental GASB, and it's something management and we've talked about over the coming year.
Okay, good.
And then what I'd like to do now is just to solidify, I'll go through our required communications to you, the audit committee members. Again, we have performed an audit of the financial statements of the MTA Defined Benefit Plan, the Metro North Cash Balance Plan, the Metro North Defined Contribution Plan, and the Long Island Railroad Additional Plan as of and for the year ended December 31st, 2007. Our responsibilities have been previously communicated to you in our engagement letter, which was dated November 28th, 2007. As it relates to the accounting estimates within the financial statements, accounting estimates are an integral part of the financial statements and are based upon management's current judgments. During the end of December 31st, 2007, we are not aware of any significant changes in such estimates. There were no uncorrected misstatements during our audits that management did not record. As it relates to the significant accounting policies, they are disclosed in Note 2 to the financial statements for each of the respective plans. There were no significant accounting policy changes for the year ended December 31st, 2007. On a go-forward basis for 2008, there will be that one change, Mr. Chairman, which we just talked about. We had no disagreements with management during the course of our audit, and we are not aware of any consultations that management of the plan had with other independent accountants or auditors. We received the full cooperation of management as well as their staff during the audits, and at this point I would be happy to answer any further questions that you may have on our audits of the financial statements that I previously mentioned.
Any questions? I guess I only have one, and that is that in 2007 we allowed for alternative investment, and I'm just wondering what impact that had on your audit.
There were alternative investments and there were commingled funds, which posed a significant problem, as we had spoken about previously in prior audit committee conversations. Those investments, an alternative investment is one whereby it does not have a readily determinable fair market value. So we needed to speak with J.P. Morgan Chase, the trustee, as well as the various investment managers. We received confirmations from the investment fund managers as well as the trustee. We also were able to obtain audited financial statements for those funds and those fund-to-fund investments that you were invested in, whereby the financial statements received an unqualified opinion by their independent auditor. We were able to obtain the investments that make up that particular fund and in essence drill down or peel back layers whereby we could actually value, using our capital markets folks, those investments that were making up the fund itself. So at the end of the day, we did get comfortable with the net asset value of that particular fund as of 12/31, because there was nuances also whereby you would receive audited financial statements that were on a fiscal year as opposed to your calendar year. So ultimately, we did receive comfort via confirmation as well as detailed testing and going in and independently valuing those particular investments, and those fair market values or those net asset values for those funds were close to, with very little margin of error, to what J.P. Morgan Chase had reported in their trustee statements. So ultimately, that's how we devise or obtain the comfort that we need to render the audited financial statements. But it was a difficult process. Management was instrumental throughout the process because there was numerous calls with both J.P. Morgan Chase as well as the investment fund managers. So it was a large undertaking.
Good. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I think we have one more audit to look at. Mike?
Good afternoon to the committee. You'll have in your documentation, your material itself, the report, including a draft of our audit report for MAPSTOA, the pension plan. Very similar to the report you just heard from Deloitte, I would say that we have completed our audit. We're comfortable with the consistency of the accounting procedures applied in the report itself. We received full and open access to all information, and very similar to the prior question, there are alternative assets, hedge funds in particular, that are part of the strategy, which is very common for hedge funds, endowments, et cetera, and we followed the procedures that any auditor would normally do. Glenn had mentioned a few items as far as obtaining financial statements, understanding the strategy, looking at performance, looking at management's processes around that, and we're able to get ourselves comfortable. We are going to issue an unqualified opinion on the financial statements, and I would just pause and see if there's any questions you may have of me.
Any questions? I think we answered two questions that were important to us.
Yeah, I would agree with those answers that you were given.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session.